And welcome to episode 3 of season 2, Talks of Outcasts. Talks with Outcasts. We are a couple of outcasts. We are two preachers of the gospel. Miles is a world-renowned collegiate minister, in-demand speaker all over the country, speaking to thousands upon thousands upon thousands. Been called the St. Thomas Aquinas of his generation. And I'm a simple, local, humble pastor. Miles, how are you today, bud?
Oh, not too bad. Didn't St. Aquinas comment down there in the comments
I probably
somewhere?
should have gone with Spurgeon.
Nah, yeah.
Or Whitfield, that would have been better. But,
yes. You think most of our listeners know who Whitfield is? Well, I mean, they've heard you preach, so they've had to know who Whitfield is by this point.
I don't really quote George Whitfield a lot, but You're also assuming anybody even remembers anything I ever said, so.
That's very true. Very true.
Wasn't he the law guy?
That's not true. If that's what they said about you, then what would they really say about me? The Pharisee guy?
They would say,
anyways.
Isn't he the Charles Spurgeon of his generation?
At least if that's fair, then at least I talked to the new MacArthur of Eastern Texas. So, we're two famous guys.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about how famous.
So Miles, I ran across this quote I wanted to run by you since you've just kind of started in your journey as in the pastoral role. You're the interim pastor there, of course, of your local church there in Oklahoma. But the quote is that pastoring will make you old before your time, like it will age you before your time. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. I don't think I have gray hair yet, but I feel like it's coming. I feel like my beard is starting to transition some in there. I think the answer to that is yes. It's interesting. I don't know if it's just the pastorate, but just thinking through like public figures and things like that, how it ages them. I think it's just because you carry a lot of weight. But I mean, you carry a lot of spiritual weight because of what you're doing, preaching the gospel, thinking about how to shepherd your flock, and those kinds of things. So you're carrying that load, but then you're carrying the load of when bad things happen, which we talked about in the last episode. And then even today, I'm just dealing with, a tragic event that's happened in our church. And so you begin to really start to see the heaviness of life, not just of your flock's life, but of your own life, and how you now have, you really start to think about your kids and your position, whatever it is you're doing. And then on top of that, preaching, you know what I mean? And studying. And so now next thing you know, instead of just, instead of going everything, slower pace, I guess, I don't really know. But you just have that, there's a big heavy, because then you are the guy who is in charge of why the internet's not working, why are the lights, how do we fix the lights? The church is leaking, air conditioner's broken. All of a sudden you wear the hats that have many different facets in it. It's like you have a drawer full of hats. And so it's just, and everybody's looking to you because you're there all the time. Well, I mean, I'm not there all the time, but even in the short amount of time I am, there's a lot of expectation.
Well, especially in a case like yours, because although the church you're in is not a one-staff church regularly, right now, you pretty much are. You've got Tyler, who works with students, and Tyler, of course, is full-time, but Tyler hadn't even really been on the job a year yet.
Yeah.
And so he's just, he's just brand new. And so, he doesn't know how, because he just doesn't have the experience to walk through some of the things. You said something that made me think of something I used to hear all the time. And it was, I don't know that it was ever really meant as a put down, but I always took it as a put down when somebody would say something like, well, preacher, in the real world.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that? Yeah. Like in the real world, as though we live in the fantasy world. And I'd always be like, listen, who is it that gets the call when a young life is cut short?
Sure.
I get that call. I
Sure.
get the call when people have lost their jobs. I get the phone call when a marriage is falling apart and they come to me and they want me to help them put it together. I had a conversation with a woman last night whose adult children won't speak to her, and she doesn't know why, and she doesn't know what she's done. And to deal and to help her walk through and process that pain of a mother whose children won't speak to her. That's the fake world that I live in. I mean,
Yeah.
no one calls us when they get that promotion.
Right.
Hey, pastor, just telling you I got a promotion. I mean, no one calls us with, like those good moments.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know necessarily where I was going with that, other than just affirming, what you were talking about. And you add to that, like you said, in a situation like yours where you're the guy, and you're not even the pastor.
Right.
You're the interim pastor, but you happen to
Yeah.
be local. And so, but it
Yeah.
also happens to be your home church. And
Right.
so you love that church and you want it to do well. And so all of this stuff just kind of gets thrown in your lap.
Yeah. I think one thing I would say though, and I know you feel this way. I mean, because sometimes we can get jaded, right? I mean, because it's very easy to have to you hear the noise of, well, you're not really doing nothing. You're just sitting in your office reading. Obviously they don't know me because I don't read well, but that's another thing for another time. But just thinking that through is that it's like you said, one of the things you and I have loved about what God has done is He's called us to such a place to do things. He's called us to a place to where we get to serve in all of those aspects. And as hard as they are, right? As hard as they are, God has always blessed us in some way. You know what I mean? And like the satisfaction, which is kind of wild, doesn't really come from our flock. It comes from God in different chunks. Does that make sense? Just like,
Yeah.
I can remember, well, even, I don't want to talk about today as much, but just there's been times when I've been driving and just overtaken by the Spirit and reminded that, it's not me anyways. It's always been God. And He's given me the ability to do these things when I'm griping about being tired or I'm mad about what I've read or somebody said about me. That God has always said, it doesn't matter because I'm the one that put you there. I'm the one that gives you the words to say, the breath to breathe. And, even in the bad part, I think both of us would say, man, we love what we do. Right. I mean, yeah, it's hard though.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't make it any easier to take those insinuations done because like even you and I are different, right? We've talked about this. I'm more of like what do I don't want to say like it's in a bad way because I don't want to mean it, but we all have our different
Redneck
niches.
Southerner.
Yeah, that's right. Where I can, I'm very mechanical. I grew up fixing things, right? And not that you can't fix things. That's not what I mean. But I have the tendency when I procrastinate to do those hands-on things, right? Where you are a studier and you read and you your one thing that you're not going to sacrifice on is your time in the Word and prep. Like, you know what I'm saying? To where sometimes for me a detriment is I spend too much time doing other things and not studying as much as I should be. Not that I don't study, but you know what I mean? You can tell the difference between someone who puts 20 hours of work in and someone who puts 10 hours of work in. Both beneficial, right? But also, it just the difference in the two things. Not that either one is right or wrong and different. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know where I was going with that, but I guess it doesn't make it any easier to take those comments sometimes when you just poured yourself out, and it just feels like you're not appreciated. But when you say, I don't know who put out the statistic, but pastoring is in the top 10 jobs of where people want to take their own lives, with first responders and, those types. And, when you tell people that statistic, I don't think they know how to take it. You know what I mean? Like, you're Christian, bro. You shouldn't ever feel that way. All in the meanwhile, while they, kind of cut you in the back a little bit. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah. Or they just chalk it up to you being a whiner.
Yeah.
You're just whining,
Yeah.
but no, you're
Yeah.
right. Because I wouldn't want to do anything else. I mean, I know, here they make fun of me a lot for how early I get to the office, and that's just ridiculous. Why are you there so early? Well, number one, because it's the only quiet time of the day, because y'all are up here all the time.
Sure.
Um, but also because honestly, I mean, I wake up early and I can't wait to go to work. I mean, I can't wait to get my day started. I can't wait to be um, alone with the Lord. I can't wait to be in the Word. I mean, I just can't wait. There's so much anticipation and there's so much excitement about just those quiet hours before everything just sort of erupts. And I don't know what other job you could do where I mean there are other jobs where you could do that, but
Sure.
we're fortunate. I heard Alistair Begg one time say, if you are fortunate enough to be paid a full-time job to study the word, then you'd better well do it. And I've always really
Yeah.
like that quote in terms of just having that focus, like,
Yeah.
where, I mean, I'm willing to be a failure over here, but I'm not willing to be a failure over here.
Right.
Have you been in ministry long enough to have kind of established what that is for you?
Like, what do you mean? Like,
Well, I mean,
what?
just like
Oh,
when I
what?
say,
I
just that
won't.
sense of priority,
Yeah.
like
Um.
as a pastor, like what, or as a minister, like what is your priority?
I would say, probably relationships is the first. I feel like, that's just something I do well. You know what I mean? Making relationships with people, which some people may not agree with that. I don't know. But then, where I fall, my second thing is, of course, my study time, but I spend a lot of time on that forefront, making relationships and developing those things. Basically, I guess if you were to look at it, there's the preaching side of pastoring, and then there's the pastoral side of it, which is the relational stuff of, being there or just talking, establishing those things. I would say that that's what I prioritize. I've had to in my ministries that I've worked in. Youth ministry is a lot of relationship building. Not that pastoring's not, but even college ministry, you've had to come in, you've had to make friends quickly, or make, you know what I'm saying. I don't know if friends is the right word, but establish that relationship very quickly. Of, hey, I'm okay to talk to you. I know I'm loud. I know I'm this person, but I really do love you. Want to know about you. I want to, those things. And I think the reason I'm that way, Chris, is because when I do preach, because of the style that I have, um, it helps people to understand it more. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, people who don't like my style of preaching, it's generally because they don't really know me. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Once they get to realize that, hey, when Miles is not in the pulpit, he's really not that bad. Like, he's still loud. I'm still loud. I mean, that's just who I
Yeah.
am in my personality. But I also, am loving, and I do care. And I try to remember things that are going on in your life. I want to be there for things that you want me there for, and I want to pray with you. I want to live life, with you. Otherwise, why would I want to be a pastor? My job
Right.
literally is to do those things, and to preach, and to teach and disciple. All those things is literally what, I feel like God has called me to do. And so I think I've prioritized the relationship. I know that it's changed a lot in the years that I've done this now, because I spend way more time studying than I used to, even though I don't spend, like, I probably spend 10 hours, but it's sporadic 10 hours. Like, it's not, I'm a set down Friday and
Yeah.
spend 10 hours straight. I read my passage, start reading, commentary, start making notes, and then really crunch it all together. But I've definitely put in 10 hours by the time it's finished. And I may not finish till Saturday night, but it's
Right.
finished. And I've done, because I feel like, well, don't feel like it, the Bible tells me I'll be held accountable. Now, what that means, I don't necessarily always understand. But I take my job preaching very seriously,
Yeah.
very, very seriously, because I want you to know what the Bible says, and not what Miles says, but what the Bible says. And I only have an hour to do it. Not even an hour, right?
Right.
Really 30 minutes and people start getting antsy.
Well,
Not if you're the
maybe
John
maybe
MacArthur.
when they hear you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so, but that kind of leads me into a question for you. Um, have you ever had anybody confront you with your style of preaching?
Sure.
Like you're gonna have to explain. You can't just be like, "Yeah, bro."
Well, I mean, and this has come up the last couple of weeks where you've kind of commented on styles of preaching and so let's just dive into it. Like how many different styles, can we think of? Well, let's just assume for a second that a guy is being faithful to the text, which is the most important thing. I mean,
Sure.
the most important thing is that the scripture is the focal point of what we're doing. So let's leave out the attractional guys, the guys that just, want to give you opinions or
Sure.
psychology or whatever.
Sure.
So let's assume that you've got preachers that are actually preaching the word. So you've got guys that are more professors in the way that
Sure.
they approach it, where it feels very much like a lecture. You've got guys that are going to intersperse and kind of bring in a lot of illustrations and try to be lighthearted and try to be humorous with it. You've got guys that are maybe intense, but they don't necessarily show that intensity with their voice. And then you've got guys that pick and choose their spots of when their voice is going to rise. And then you got guys that are just, in the words of the old golf instructor who told me one time, just grip it and rip it. They're just just
Yeah.
get up there and just let them have it. I think I don't think I'm like the grip it and rip it, just let them have it. I think I'm probably maybe a step below that. Like I'm not yelling constantly, but I will raise my voice. Now,
Sure.
the thing is, that turns a lot of people off.
Yeah.
It just does.
Yeah.
But when I'm asked about why, first of all, I'll be honest with you. I think this is something that maybe the generation ahead of me um, hasn't really picked up on, and that is that these younger people, what they want more than anything else is they want you to be authentic. Who are you? And they want to
Yeah.
know that you really believe what you're saying. Like like
Yeah.
like you are not just giving them a line of baloney. Like you actually have wrestled with this. This is something that's coming from deep within your soul. Like they want to feel that passion. They want to feel that. I don't know another way to put it. I have never been
Sure.
criticized by a person under the age of 40, maybe 35, for yelling.
Yeah.
Never. Now, I have been criticized by people who are in their 60s and 70s for
That's
yelling.
fair. Yeah.
And so I think some of it is generational. Um, but when someone asks me about yelling, what I tell them is this: I yell for the same reason that you can go to a football game on Saturday and you can sit with 60,000 people, and guess what? They're yelling. I mean, they're excited. And I yell because I'm excited. And that's the
Sure.
way I express that.
Yeah.
Um, Most of the time when I'm yelling, it's not because I'm angry, and it's
Sure.
not because I'm mad, and it's not because I'm trying to, beat the people. It's because I'm excited, because this is eternity, and look what Christ has done for us. I mean,
Yeah.
we preached Colossians chapter 2 this week, and starting in verse 6. I mean, how can you read or preach words like In him you were circumcised with a circumcision made without hands, by putting off the body of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ, having been buried with him in baptism, in which you were also raised with him through faith in the powerful working of God who raised him from the dead. And you who were dead in your trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, God made alive. You were dead.
Yeah.
God has made you alive, together with him, having forgiven us all our trespasses by canceling the record of debt that stood against us with its legal demands. This he set aside, nailing it to the cross. He disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them in him. How can you read that and not yell for joy?
Sure.
And not yell for joy. Maybe the question shouldn't be, why are you yelling? Maybe the question should be, why aren't you yelling?
Yeah.
Maybe that's should
fair.
be the question.
That's fair. I was talking to Tyler today about just the text and just in general. And I think about
Tyler is
the youth guy, the youth pastor or youth minister. I don't know what they call him, but I'm going to say youth pastor. So
Coca-Cola.
Nice. Hey, Coke, if you're listening, nothing better. Listen, Chris and Miles, we love Coke Zero. And in the evening, because we don't like to be staying up late, we like Coke Zero caffeine free.
That's right. Let me just say something to the CEO of Coke. I have probably personally put at least 3 of your kids through college. So throw us an endorsement.
That's what I'm saying. Even if it's just a 12-pack of Coke Zero, we'll take it. But my point, what I was saying is, Paul, when he writes his letter, a couple letters, right? In Romans, especially, he says, I've written this to you in boldness. Like he's emphasized what he's saying. Do you think if he was in person, he would just whisper that to them? Hey.
No. And think about what the word preaching means is proclamation.
Yeah.
It's proclamation. Yeah. It's not lecture.
Yeah.
It's not conversation. It's not a TED talk.
Yeah.
It's the proclamation of God's word. And how can you not be excited about that?
But doesn't this go back to, Chris, what we talked about last week, how we can't, I don't know if dialogue's the right word, but people just can't handle hearing something that rubs them so abrasive about the life that they're living. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I
maybe
think,
not. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think in certain parts of the country, culturally, you have different attitudes toward church. And you have different attitudes about what constitutes living well as a Christian and what constitutes your public witness and your public expression of your faith. I think there are certain parts of the country where that's not really considered polite behavior.
Sure.
And so anything that is overly emotional, anything that's overly just out there, makes certain people really uncomfortable.
Sure.
They don't know what to do with it because maybe they weren't wired that way, right? And so so let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and say this is not because they're not trying to be a good Christian, and this is not because they're not trying to live for God. Let's just assume for a second that this is an issue of I was wired to be a little more reserved. Play my emotions a little closer to the vest. And that's fine. But leave room for the guys that aren't like you and aren't wired like you.
When you read the text about the gifts, any of the gifts, Romans, 1 Corinthians, all the other places that Paul gives the list, Ephesians, they're different for a reason. All of our gifts are different. The way we're wired is all different, but it's all supposed to be used in harmony together for the entirety. And so you have to leave room for those guys. You
Well, and
have
not
to.
just yeah, and not just that, but also how about just basic personality types?
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
mean, just basic personality. I mean, think about this. Okay, so you took church history in seminary, I'm assuming, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Take Martin Luther and put Martin Luther in John Calvin's context in
Sure.
Geneva,
Sure.
right? And
Sure.
then take John Calvin and put him in Martin Luther's context.
Sure.
Now, God can do whatever he wants, right? God
Right.
God could have taken a man like John Calvin who was very cerebral. Not that Martin Luther wasn't cerebral, he was, but
Sure.
Martin Luther was a lot more earthy.
Right.
And he was much more earthy. And you take his earthiness and you put it in Geneva, which was a very cosmopolitan, very
Sure.
kind of uppity
Yeah.
context, and that ain't going to go well. And
Yeah.
you take John Calvin, as I understand him, and you put him in Germany, and he comes across as kind of snooty,
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of stuck up and arrogant.
Yeah.
But it took Martin Luther's personality under the control of the Spirit, led and guided and directed by the Scripture, led and guided and directed by the Holy Spirit, of course. But it took a man like that to do what he did.
Right.
And over in Geneva, over there in Switzerland, it took a man like John Calvin with his personality to do what he did.
Right.
Now, which one's better?
Right.
Well, that's a stupid question. They're both
Yeah.
fine.
Sure.
For any of our people that and I'll even bring it to the world of sports. How about this? Mac Brown was the coach of the Texas Longhorns for 20 years, incredibly successful coach, won a national title. But Mac
Sure.
Brown was chicken fried steak, man. I mean, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Mac Brown was a guy
Yeah.
that knew how to connect to Texas high school football coaches.
Yeah.
Whether they're out west, down, here in the east.
Sure.
I mean, he was great. I mean, he knew how to connect with those guys. And you take a guy like Pete Carroll, who was at USC. Pete Carroll is West Coast surfer dude, cool,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, you put Pete Carroll in Texas, where he's got to connect with the good old boy Texas high school football coach, and you put Mac Brown on the West Coast, where he's got to deal with the kind of the West Coast cool.
Yeah.
And are they as good?
Sure.
Maybe. But you can make an argument that they're not, that their personalities fit their context. And the same thing is true with preaching.
Sure. I think that's absolutely right. But you also, I think what's crazy, and maybe the church, or just even in my own opinion, is thinking that in God's sovereignty, he knows what you need when you need it. And so, and that's the thing. It's like in this interim period, right? Let's just say that this is what God has for them. Well, obviously it is because it's happening. So God has me there for a purpose. And if I'm not your style or your thing, maybe you should be asking yourself, well, what is God trying to show us as a church? Or what is God trying to show me as a believer in this point in time? Right?
Or better yet, or better. And those are great questions, but better than that, maybe you should be asking yourself, hey, even though this might not be stylistically my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Is he preaching the word?
Right. 100%. No, 100%.
And if he's preaching the word,
yeah, then
get over it.
Yeah.
Just get over it.
Because I told you we're doing Signs of a Healthy Church, the 9 Mark series, Healthy Church. What is a healthy church? And that's in the first 2 chapters. It's like, maybe leave your preferences. Maybe not the problem's not the church. Maybe the problem is your preferences. Maybe you need to adjust to what's happening, and those things. I think that's where we get into these spots.
And see, you got me riled up. Or maybe the problem is that you're acting like a spiritual child, and you need to grow up.
Yeah. Well,
because I'll promise you, the people that do this kind of thing are not the people that have been Christians for 6 months.
Sure.
It's the people that have been Christians for decades, who their favorite preacher did it this way. And so only this way is going to be acceptable to them.
Sure.
Grow up.
And as you progress, haven't you noticed even in your life the people you listen to and things like that change over time?
Yes.
Like, there's a time in my life when I could hear John Piper and catch a lot of it. And then there's another time when I'm like, okay, I can only take so much of that and I need something else. And so many other things and different times and different places and different situations. Even in my own life, from where I came from as a youth minister and hearing the pastors I sat under, and then to where I hear pastors that I sat under, or you pastor, I guess I haven't really sat under any other ones but you, but in those things. But God takes me, Miles, and my family, Cooper and Molly and Abby, and he places us where we need to be to hear what he has to say in the time that we need it. Otherwise, God is not sovereign, right? He takes us where we need, puts the people in our life that we need or need to be around in some way, shape, or form, and he brings us to a place to where we can all come together as the body of believers inside of the building that we have to be a part of something that God has called us to. Maybe that's the way we should start thinking about this thing, instead of start thinking about this thing as something that we hope matches my music preference or my preaching preference or my small group preference or whatever it is. And maybe we just get back to, I don't know, reading the word and holding to it. And I mean, and I try to be super, super kind about these things, but a lot of times, anymore specifically, and you're absolutely right. Now I've had a student ask me why I yell, and I explained it to them, and they can understand why. Dr. Steve Gaines, was the president of the Southern Baptist Convention, took the pulpit right after Adrian Rogers said that in the pulpit, I am not your friend. In the pulpit, I am a proclamation of what God's word says. And as Baptists, we have always held that to be true. If they're preaching the word, like you said earlier, if they're preaching the word, then they are the herald that God is using. And when they step out of that platform, they're just a normal human being, even in the platform itself. But they're in the platform, they're doing something supernatural. They're bringing the word to us by the Spirit, and we are supposed to be ingesting the word by the Spirit, not by Miles's preference.
Yeah, okay, so I've settled down a little bit. Got my heart rate down. So I think
it's that caffeine-free Coke Zero that's helping.
I think it would be profitable for us to spend some time thinking about, because this is a bigger question than just for ministers, because every Christian at some point is criticized for something.
Sure.
And so where we need to go from here is, okay, so what do you do? Like, you've been criticized for your style of preaching. How do you address that? When do you dig your feet in the sand, so to speak, and say, you know what, this is who God has created me to be, and this is who I am, and this is my style. And listen, I love you, but if I'm not your cup of tea, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but
I'm
not going to change my whole approach to this just to suit you.
Sure.
Versus, when do you say, you take a step back, you think about what was said, and you say, you know what? There's an element of truth to what they're saying.
Sure.
And so, yes, this is an area that I can improve. This is an area I can get better. I've told you the story of the guy before that you and I both know, who does something, and I don't want to say what he does because then everybody know who it is.
Sure.
And someone who is more successful in that field said to me one time, so-and-so could be a really good blank, but they can't listen to criticism.
Yeah.
Right. Like if they had the ability to hear criticism, not take it personally, and take a step back and say, okay, yes, that is something that I could be better at.
Sure.
This is somebody that could be an absolute phenom at what it is that they do. But because they can't hear criticism and they dismiss it and they take it personally and they get defensive, they're good, but they're never going to be great.
Sure.
And I know, Jesus talks about the parable of the talents. Like, I think God has given us gifts. He's called us to ministry. And I think that part of our task with what he has given us is to work at it and get better, not for our own glory, but for God's glory, regardless if that means whether we ever get to the top of our field or not. That's ultimately irrelevant because it's
Right.
for God's glory. Right. And so there are times when we're criticized, when we need to take a step back and say, you know what? There's probably some truth to that. Now, they probably don't have it 100% correct, but
Sure.
there's enough truth there that I probably need to listen to this
Sure.
and figure out how I can do this better.
Yeah.
So for you, where's that line?
Man, that's a good question. So the first thing I do is people may not think this, but I do always take a step back, because if you're going to take criticism, you have to at least step back to assess it. You can't, you know what I mean? You can't just let your emotions and your feelings answer that, right? Unless it's a tier, like if we're talking about salvation, I'm not going to jump back on it. I know what I believe. When it comes to theology and things like that, that are certainties, I'm all going to just go at it.
Yes, yes.
But like in
we're
these
not talking
moments,
about that though.
sure,
Right.
we're talking about like positions that we hold or take, as far as like my preaching style or
Skills, right. Yeah.
skills, whatever,
Right.
whatever. It doesn't even have to be a preacher, just someone in the church. That you always have to step back, and I think you have to listen. And then I think one of the things that I try to do is ask God and the Spirit to direct me if this is something that I need to change. Like, because I believe that there's been times in my life when people have corrected me, when the Spirit matched that correction. Does that make sense? Like, the thing inside of me was like, hey, like you said, there's something to this.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason, there's something to this that you need to look back on, or you need to change. I told you this long ago. It was about my dress, the way I dressed and the way I carried myself. I had a man who loved me very much. And he told me, he said, listen, no one is ever going to take you serious by the way you dress and what you do with your hair. And he meant it in love. At first, I didn't take it that way. I'm like, well, who are you, bruh? I can do whatever I want. I'm anti-establishment. I don't care about what you feel. I just want people to look at me and be provocative. And then right there in that statement,
Was this during the Frosted Tips
I had green hair, purple
stage?
hair, red hair. I just wore gym shorts and shirts and those type of things. But I didn't sound like an idiot. I knew what I was talking about. But when he told me that, and I was mad, and I could say, and here I started saying, I can do whatever I want. Blah blah blah. I started to realize that there was an idol there, and it was selfishness. And what he's saying to me it was not for him to bash me. It was for him to say, hey, if you want to be taken serious because you have something to say, then you need to change some things. And so I stopped dyeing my hair, started thinking about buying like polos, and you can still be like wear shorts and a polo and be taken serious because you look nice. You look like you care enough about yourself and the part, and that people are going to listen. And so there were that circumstance where I'm like, okay, this is something that needs to change. Now on this other side of things, I have tried to change things that people have suggested, and it just be a disaster. Like, disaster. I can't do it. And it's not because of practice. It's just I can't do it. And so I just dig in my heels. And it's like you said, I try to tell everybody, like, listen, I know that I'm not your cup of tea, but just bear with me because I'm bearing with you, bruh. I love you, and I have grace to you, and I want to live life with you. But there are some things that I'm overlooking, and I need you to overlook some of my things. And that's not in a bad way. I know that sounds terrible, but it's not really meant to sound terrible. It's meant to really just say, listen, I'm going to bear your burdens and you're going to bear mine together. And we're going to, sorry, go ahead.
But I know that you're capable of taking criticism when it comes to your preaching, because I remember the first time you preached at our church, and
Yeah.
you came to me afterward and you said, how can I do it better? And I
Sure.
pointed something out to you. I said, don't
Yeah.
do this anymore. You remember what it was?
No.
And Okay, well,
What was
you
it?
never
Tell
did it
me.
again.
What was it?
Well, okay, since you asked, I'll tell you. So you had made a joke about your weight
Oh,
in the
yes.
sermon.
Yes. Yeah,
And I
no,
told
100%.
you, I said, look, I used to do that too, out of a sense of
Yeah.
my own insecurity. I said, but
Yeah.
don't do that. I said,
Yeah.
everybody sees you, everybody knows.
Yeah.
And if you take yourself seriously, they'll
Yeah.
take you seriously. And
100%.
and you don't need to point you don't need to point that out.
Yeah. No, you're
And
right.
I've never heard you do it since.
No, that's actually a very valid point. I don't do it at all.
So so you can take criticism and you
Sure.
can learn from it and you
Sure.
can grow from it because I've
But
seen you
that took a that took a while. And that's
just to
why,
break
and
the habit.
yeah, and one of the things that
Yeah.
I've learned, and that's why I tell you that as a Christian, you have to be able to step back. When someone's giving you criticism, maybe God's trying to tell you something. Maybe there's truth in what they're saying, and you already know there's truth in it, right? You've been struggling with it yourself, and you're just trying to pass it off. You're like, nah, that can't be until someone else says it.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, well, now I have to deal with it. In the same vein, I believe in the same way, God secures you and says, no, you're doing what I've given you. You're serving how I've called you, whether that be kids ministry, whether that be preaching ministry, whether that be a deacon, or just a church member. That's everybody across the board. That I believe that in the same vein where God is correcting you, He also assures you and tells you that you are doing the things He's called you to do. And so that's why I say that step back is a necessary place. But that's
Yeah.
humility, right? Like
Yeah.
that's being humble enough to know that you can be wrong, and that your stuff is wrong. And if we truly believe the gospel, we know that that's true. Like
Sure.
there are things in us that we know are wrong. And so,
Right.
and one thing I will tell you that the pastoring has really made me have to focus on is being humble and willing to step outside of yourself, to hear people, to listen to people, and take criticism. I don't always like it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't always like it. And in fact, I go home and that long drive I have to the house, and sometimes I just think, God, is this me? Is this is this what I'm destined for? Because if it is, I'm going to need you. And you know what He does? He always
Yeah.
reminds me that I belong to Him. And I think as believers, we need to hear that over and over again.
Yeah.
That it's Him, anyways. And so, yeah, I think in the same vein, God still tells you both things. You need to fix this. There's some truth here. Deal with it. I'm going to help you deal with it both ways. What's beautiful about God, Chris, is He helps us both ways. He helps us when we need to
Yes.
deal with it, and He helps us when we need reassurance. And
Right.
so what better God do we serve, that even in the midst of our mess, He's always doing something
Yeah.
with us.
Amen.
And so that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I would tell somebody. I assume, what would you say?
I mean, I would tell them just about what you said. I mean, I think, for me, I always wanted to be teachable, and I don't ever I don't want to lose that. I don't want to be one of those old preachers that thinks he knows everything and thinks he can't learn something from the guys that are coming up after him. And, so I just want to remain teachable. I want to remain coachable. And so most of the time, if I'm being completely honest, if there are words of criticism, there's some truth in there somewhere.
Sure.
Now,
Sure.
am I 100% guilty of everything that people say? Of course not. Of course not. Um, you know how it is. You and I walked through some of those seasons together when I was there,
Sure.
where I would take bullets for things that, quite honestly, were just completely unfair, and they were just
Yeah.
unfair.
Sure.
I try to draw a distinction between a criticism of something I did versus a criticism of who I am.
Yeah.
One of those is a little bit easier to swallow, and the other one is not as easy to swallow. Some of it for me also depends on where the criticism's coming from. If it's coming from someone who I know loves me, and someone that has taken the time to know me and taken the time to have good conversations with me, it's a lot easier for me to hear,
Yeah.
honestly, than from
Sure.
someone who maybe's just been an acquaintance for 5 or 6 years, but has never really given me the time of day. And when I see them at basketball games or football games, they just act like I'm not even there.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Little bit harder for me to take criticism from those people.
Sure.
Another thing for me is how it's approached. There's a person that, again, you and I both know, who anytime she had words of, and I hate to even call them criticism, because she was just so sweet and she was so kind.
Sure.
And you just knew from talking to her that she wasn't trying to cut you. You know, she wasn't trying to be
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
You know, she was doing this um, because she saw that you could be better.
Sure.
And it was always a lot easier, even though there were times when I got mad at her.
Sure.
There was still that sense of, this person is not against you.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
so it was a lot easier coming from her.
Sure. Sure. It's all about when they say they love you and they really mean it. And so you're listening. It's a lot easier to, because I've said some things that have hurt you, right?
Yeah,
Like,
but this person that I'm talking about, I mean, it's not like, she never invited us over into her home. We never went over there and had a
Sure.
meal.
That's fair.
She never just stuck her head in to say hello. But she was just so, when she would say something, she just said it with such kindness. And
Sure.
that could have just honestly been her personality.
Sure. Yeah.
But she was so disarming in the way that she did it. It was just very hard to be defensive. And
That's
yes,
fair.
you have said things that have hurt me.
Sure.
Of course you have.
Yep.
But it's never affected our friendship, and it's
Sure.
never made things awkward between us. Because I know that even if I thought about your criticism and thought it's not fair, or Miles doesn't know the whole picture, I still
Sure.
know that it's coming from your love for me. And so that makes a huge difference. One of the things that I struggle with is, and you're going to have these, and frankly, you've had them already, these situations that you're put into where if you have young guys around you, the young guys are like urging you to act. Listen,
Yeah.
bruh, you got
Yeah.
you got to go to war and charge the hill.
Wasn't I that guy for you?
Sometimes I felt like sometimes,
Yep.
but that's part of being young.
Sure.
But for me, it could make me question myself from the standpoint of, man, maybe I'm just a wimp. I mean,
Sure.
maybe I'm just, maybe those things that Miles says about me really are true.
That's so crazy. Yeah.
But the thing is, you've also got to have courage to stand your ground when even those people who love you think you should do something else. It takes courage to say, no, I love you, but you're not going to force me into a decision that either I'm not ready to make or I don't think's the right move.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so remember that, because you've got young guys around you too.
Yeah.
And if it hadn't happened yet, eventually it will.
Sure.
Where they're going to be urging you, because that's young guys, man. They want to pick up the sword and fight, bruh. I mean, Peter, slice that ear off that high priest, bruh.
That's right, man.
Right? But that's part of being a young guy. That's part of being young. But you, as the older, more experienced, hopefully wiser man, you have to be able to see through that.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to live with the decisions that you make. So remember that too, man.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing and I think the same thing applies when it comes to criticism, whether it's preaching style or whatever. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, God created you the way He created you, and I'm not talking about your sinful heart. I'm talking about your basic personality type.
Yeah.
And God called that Miles to preach.
Sure.
He didn't call you. If He wanted to, add 20 years onto, Mr. Milquetoast. I'm just going to be real bland because I don't want to offend it. I mean, if he wanted to add 20 years onto that guy's life, he could have done it.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He called you there.
Sure.
For this season, for this moment.
Sure. Yeah.
And so don't be afraid to say, you know what? I know you don't understand this. I know it's not your cup of tea, but this is who I am. Now,
Sure.
if there's truth to it, work on it, get better.
Sure.
But you don't have to be anybody other than who you are.
Yeah. I think that's wise words for everyone in the church to hear. So that's good. Look at you, Brad. Well, I hate to cut it short, but I have another meeting in exactly 8 minutes. So I've got to walk across.
Just for everybody to know, I've started doing yoga.
Oh,
and so I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that when we're done. Maybe I'll take some pictures and we'll talk about it next week on Talks of Outcasts.
I'd rather not. So, well, in the meantime, Joe Rogan says. That's right. All right, we'll see you.
Hey, one. I know you got to get your meeting, but hey, real quick. Hey, Gunner, we're sorry we didn't have time to get to you. We ran a little long. We apologize. We'll try to get you on next week. Actually, not next week because we got another guest next week.
That's right. You know we should do. We should just
Jen
call
Blocker.
Gunner. That's right. Let's go, Jen. And then we should just call Gunner and put him on hold the whole time.
That would be so great. Do that.
All right. Well, I am as always.
Or you know what?
You are not
Gunner. No. Hold on, one more thing. Have Gunner in the room where he can text us messages through this podcast, and then we can just read them.
That's right. All right, man. Want to call it?
Hey, love you, buddy. See you, man.
Yep.